Welcome to the Hart Astrology Show. I'm James Vollbracht, your host, and we have a great show lined up for you today. We are going to be focusing on a series of shows about the intricacies of astrology. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jean Hart. Jean, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you got involved in astrology in the first place.
Well, the stars are my passion, the galaxies are my desire to travel through, and I want to know and understand why I breathe every morning. I figured that math, your time, your date, and your place of birth can describe any and every single solitary thing that you face in life. I think Earth is this giant schoolroom. We're all down here to learn lessons and to pass our test. The most important thing is to pass your test. And the astrology shows what the test is and what time it'll happen. And the test can be from anywhere from money to having fights with people to, your spiritual growth or shrinking or your addictions or your health or any and everything you encounter in the physical world. And so to know, to me, knowledge is power. Obviously, astrology is based on free will choice. If you have energy coming your way and you see it ahead of time, you're going to drive around it, right? So that is my passion with astrology, is figuring out timing is everything. All the world is a stage. To be or not to be, that is the question. And that's what astrology provides. Shakespeare knew how to do astrology.
I've heard you refer to astrology as a science, and I don't think a lot of people view it that way. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, science meaning you can prove it. In other words, you can take a date, a time, and a place of birth and convert it to universal time and, change everything into physics. And you can see a dynamic happen. You can predict a dynamic and then see it happen. Usually it happens because people are in the human condition and they don't know any better. So when they feel a certain energy pull upon them on a given day, they identify with it, they think it's real, and so they act on it. But if you know your astrology, quite frankly, when something happens, you won't identify with it. You will say, no, I'm not going there, and you take a better road. So that's why it's a roadmap and a compass and a science. A science meaning time, date, and place. Math, you prove it. It's like clockwork. And I can give you an example. 2 years ago, everybody said Trump would never win. And not to bring up, politics or anything, but the example is the fact that I took his time, date, and place of birth. And whether you like him or not, it showed in the stars that he was going to win. So I made the prediction and I put it in lots of newspapers and on lots of radio shows, and he won. So how is it that I knew that? Because I calculated it. I showed the mood of the moment in his stars at the exact time of the election. And yeah, the election took all day and all night. But at the end of the day, he had a particular configuration that showed he was pretty happy and pretty profoundly moved by the fact that he got elected. And when I looked at Hillary Clinton's chart, she looked totally depressed and despaired and angry. So, somebody would not be despaired and angry if they had won the election. So it was an easy call. And that's what you can do with your chart. You can see the mood of the moment and see the subject matter that's activated. So there are many subjects that we go through in life, and all subjects are calculated. So you can find out where your health is, your money is, your job is, your career, your relationships, your love life, should I move? When should I move? The timing is everything. Timing is everything.
Wow, that's really fascinating. You actually made that prediction quite a long time in advance, didn't you, by looking at the stars?
Yeah, right. It was pretty funny because when he came down that escalator, I didn't know what was happening, and I never had heard of Trump before. I'm probably one of the few people that haven't heard of him at that time. But, I found out his time, date, and place of birth immediately and began the calculations and went, oh my God, here's our next president. And
Oh,
then
wow.
I looked deep into his chart to see what kind of personality he is, and I've written several articles, which we can actually paste those on our website. You're going to want to come to our Facebook.
Okay. You know, I've also read that the three wise men used the stars in order to be at the place of the birth of Christ. Is that the same thing we're talking about?
That absolutely is, but people do not put two and two together. Actually, those three wise men were wise because they knew how to calculate the stars. And so they studied it profoundly. And I tell you, it is a study. It's amazing. I've been doing it about 35 years, and I can't tell you how much I love it. I never get bored with it. Every chart is like the unveiling of a brand new life and a brand new adventure to see, where that person is going. There are not two charts alike. There are not two snowflakes alike. And so even in a twins chart, you will find that they are very different, even though they were born, a minute apart. And usually that's about what it is, a minute apart. You can't take two babies out at once. You have to do one at a time.
Well, that leads me actually into another question that ties right into that. When someone comes to you, what are the most common things people want to know? And my second part to that question is, what do they forget to ask?
Does he love me? Does she love me? Love seems to be the most dynamic and constant thing. In fact, tonight I'm doing a relationship of a lovely, lovely couple. It'll be amazing to see if they make it through the relationship reading. But, and career, people want to know what their missions are in life. Everybody has a particular mission in life. They don't realize that. So a lot of times they struggle going, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with myself? Let me take this mundane job that means nothing and makes me miserable. The astrology can show where your talents are because I think you've been here before, and I think you've built momentums. Everybody has built momentums of skill sets, and you can see that again in the calculation of the chart. So it's amazing that all the answers are written on your inward parts, your gut feelings and your hunches. So there's this one thing that you always wanted to do, and your heart just tingles when you think about it. And guess what? You haven't done it yet. That's usually the very thing that you're supposed to do. But we end up choosing for reasons of money or we have all kinds of reasons why we choose particular directions and we're miserable. But if you correct that by looking at where Venus is in respect to your job, and Venus rules love, and it also rules money. Usually when you love what you do, you're able to make more money. It's amazing how that works. But we are Saturn, our own worst enemies in the 12th house. And so we can create all kinds of reasons why, I don't know. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. What was that? Lion. Poor lion. He only wanted a heart. That's all. So anyway.
And he wanted to be king of the jungle.
That's right. Symbolic.
Yeah.
If you got your career in order, you're king of your jungle.
Well put. Well, another question that I had that ties into that is that, okay, money, relationships, there's all the big ones. What are some of the things that people might come to you and say, if I'd only asked you about this? And I can give you an example of a real estate experience I had, and I thought, oh my God, it just went belly up. If I'd only checked to see when the right time was. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What are some other things that people should know about, or how astrology could help them?
Oh yeah, you can see when to put a house up on the market, because in astrology, anything that has a time, date, and place of birth can be calculated. So you can take a home, a real estate sale, when you hire someone to sell your property, you time it, and that becomes the birth chart, and you can see the cycles of how well that will come down the pipeline. So will a lot of people look at the house? Will we get a lot of, interest? And you can actually figure out what day the house will sell. And I have a lot of testimonies on my website of people who said that I got it within 24 hours, the sale of their houses. So it is very mathematical. If you've got the correct time, date, and place of birth, and mind you, that correct time is so important. If you're off 2 minutes, you're going to have a whole different unfolding of events. So the timing is everything.
So if the nurse was a little slow writing down the time, it's possible you might not have the right astrology.
Well, you'll find most of the information is accurate, but when you zero in on the up close and personal stuff, you'll notice that things happen a little later or a little sooner.
Okay.
The other thing is that we've had a lot of earthquakes under the seabed. One in particular was 650 miles long, the Indonesia tsunami that took place. And what that did is it literally kind of altered the axis of the earth. And so it created somewhat of a wobble, or maybe it even enhanced the wobble a little bit more. So I do see sometimes things will happen a few hours earlier or a few hours later when I'm charting a moon walk, so to speak. And when I say a moon walk, the moon pulls on your tide all day long. You're 90% water or somewhere in there. And so you have high tides and low tides all day long. And the moon moves 1 degree every 2 hours. So you can literally chart your mood and how productive you'll be at a given time, or whether maybe you should stay home and pull up the covers. There's a time for all things. So the moon is kind of that particular thing to use to figure out where you stand in time and space now, in the now. And that's where you should really focus your energy, is in the now. So this is more important than I want to just drive this point home, because the moon is the only luminary that travels around the earth. All the rest of the planets travel around the sun. So the moon stands out. And I know in religious art, a lot of times you see statues of Mother Mary and she's always standing on the moon. I think that she was trying to tell a message to everyone: stand on the moon. That when that energy, when that high tide comes in, you want to surf it properly. When that low tide comes in, you want to be in control of the water or the emotional body. And if you want to get Christian about it, I think that is exactly what Jesus was talking about when he was talking about Peter walking on the water. Walking on the astral plane. The astral plane is the moon and its pull on our emotional body and our electronic belt. And these are all words that we'll talk more about as we get deeper into the radio show, because I want you to know how to do astrology. And I hope to bring this to you in doing this show with James, how you can chart your own course. And if you're like most of my clients, they're too lazy to chart their own course, and they call me and say, will you do it? I don't want to learn how to do this. But why not? It's so fascinating.
Yeah, some people may not have an inclination towards it. And so that actually leads me to my next question. How do you do astrology that makes you different? Why would I come to you? Elaborate a little bit upon that.
Well, there's several reasons. The physical reason is because, I'm kind of cute. The emotional reason.
And young, we know that. Okay.
And the emotional reason is that I'm very, very sensitive, and I don't judge anyone. And the mental reason is that I can do calisthenics like no other mentally. And the etheric reason is spiritually, by the grace of God, I got Neptune exactly sextile my midheaven coming out of my 12th house, which makes me have a little bit more third eye magic than most people. I'm not a psychic, but I do have a higher self that guides me and tells me, which direction to go. And I meet people where they're at. I don't expect them to be where I'm at. I want to have fun doing it. So, wherever you come from, I'm not your judge. I just want to tell you how you can make your life better and be more in control of the energies from hour to hour. Because if you bother to take the time, you'll not have to deal with the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, I can testify. When you did my chart, we laughed probably half through the chart. It was fascinating. It was fun. But I have another question that ties into this. People can have their astrology done, and this is what we're going to call our tip for the day as we wrap up each of our radio shows. Let's say I go have my astrology done, and then I stick it in a drawer, and then 6 months later, all these things have happened, and I've totally forgotten about my astrology. Can you give a tip as to how do you keep it present in your life? How do you stay aware of what's going on?
Well, that's what I was saying. If you could learn how to chart your own course, and that's what the point of these shows is, to help you learn how to do it yourself. The first thing that you have to have is your chart in front of you. So I would recommend that you keep your chart in a place where you notice it, as you walk by on your way to the bathroom, or, out the front door, that you're aware that, oh yeah, astrology, I got cycles of energy that I'm going to deal with today. Maybe I should either call Jean real quick or text her real quick, 406-599-3934, or, learn how to do this myself so I know what the heck I'm going to face today.
I mean, people could actually text you and you'd get back to them?
Actually, text, I know modern technology is amazing.
Yeah, but you're, yeah, kind of like astrology on demand. That's kind of
That's
cool.
exactly what I do, astrology on demand. If you're a part of my club, I have an elite astrology club. If you are a member, you get me first. And other people, it takes a few days to get an appointment. But, it's worth the wait. And it's also worth being a part of that club, because that club is...
Well, I've heard you share with us 3 ways that people can contact you or utilize your resources. And one is a chart. One is maybe a quick call or text about a real estate or investment or something like that. And the other is what you just shared with us. Jean, that is so cool. You've given us a variety of ways to tap into your astrology. If people want to follow through and contact you, give us your contact information.
Okay, are you ready? Get your pen and paper out, because
Okay.
it's a lot. All right, I do have a website, astrologyjeanhart.com, astrologyjeanhart.com, astrologyjeanhart.com. I have a phone number. You can text me, 406-599-3934. That's 406-599-3934. And I'll get back to you probably faster. And then, of course, I have an email address, Jean, Jean, at astrologyjeanhart.com. If you want to get me really, really fast, if it's an emergency and you just really need to cut through and get some information, the texting is the way to do it. And, of course, joining the Elite Astrology Club. I'll get back with you as fast as I can. I really do want to talk to you, and I really want to show you what this is about, because you've never had your chart done until you let me look at it. And I know all astrologers, there are many out there. Some of them are psychics. Some of them are tie-dye t-shirt types that make you want to throw up. And then there's others that are very in tune. So you're listening to me right now, so call me. And then if you don't like my work, you can go try somebody else. You want to dig down and get as much information as you can. Keep your mind open and do the research. And some of them are good and some of them are crazy. So if you get one that isn't quite up to snuff, be sure and try another one until you find the right one, because there is an astrologer for everybody. And once you get that astrologer, then it's amazing how quickly you'll learn how to do it yourself, which I think every man, woman, and child should know how to do astrology themselves. So James, thank you for being such an amazing host. And I know we have lots and lots of shows to do and a whole long relationship of...
We're just getting going, girl.
this astrology radio show. So that's it, folks, for now.
Yeah, this is your host, James Vollbracht. Thanks for joining us.
Let me, Jean Hart, do an astrology consultation with you, your family, and be sure to tell your friends. Go to astrologyjeanhart.com or give me a call or text me at 406-599-3934. That's 406-599-3934. Or visit our Facebook page, The Jean Hart Astrology Radio Show. be sure to hit like and comment on that page, or visit YouTube and search for the Hart Astrology radio show, and be sure to subscribe so you do not miss any of our shows. Thank you for listening, and I hope you share our shows with all your friends.